April 16th, Saint Benedict Joseph Labre. He was born on March 25th in the year 1748 and died on April 16th, 1783 at only 35. He was canonized on December 8th, 1881 by Pope Leo XIII and is patron of bachelors, rejects, mental illness, homelessness, and beggars. Benedict Joseph Labre was born the eldest of 15 children to a local shopkeeper of good standing. His parents sent him at the age of 12 to pursue his studies with his uncle, a parish priest. Here he became so completely absorbed in the Holy Scriptures and the lives of the saints that his uncle had to insist upon the importance of Latin and other secular subjects, generally in the education of a candidate for holy orders. The boy, however, had already begun to realize a call to serve God in complete abandonment of the world. The good priest died of cholera after he and his nephew had spent themselves in assisting other victims of the epidemic in the parish, and Benedict Joseph returned home. His one ambition now was to retire into the most austere religious order he could find. At the age of 18, having wrung a reluctant consent from his parents, he started off in midwinter to walk 60 miles to La Trappe. Here disappointment awaited him. He was too young, he was told, to be admitted. Subsequent attempts to join the Carthusians and the Cistercians were not much more successful. Thrice indeed he was permitted to make trial of his vocation, but he was obviously unsuited to community life. Devout indeed he was, but somewhat eccentric. The confinement of the cell told on his health as well as on his spirits. He became a shadow of himself, and his superiors had no alternative but to dismiss him. God's will be done, he said, as he took his final farewell of the Cistercians in the year 1770. Benedict now determined to go on a pilgrimage to Rome, walking all the way and living on alms. He set out accordingly, staying among other places at Ars, where he met Mr. Vinet, father of the future cure. Having crossed the Alps into Italy, he wrote from Piedmont a touching letter to his parents, the last they ever received from him. In it, he apologized for the uneasiness he may have caused them and announced his intention of trying to enter an Italian monastery. This he does not appear to have done, for his true vocation began to draw upon him. Not by shutting himself up in a cloister was he to obtain the world, but by obeying the counsels of perfection without turning his back on the world. Literally, in spirit he must follow the example of our Lord and so many of his saints. With this object in view, he embarked upon a life of pilgrimages which led him to the principal shrines in Western Europe. Oblivious of wind and weather, he traveled everywhere on foot, carrying neither purse nor script, nor yet provisions for the way. Often he slept in the open air upon the bare ground. At his best he took his rest in a shed, for he could rarely be induced to accept a bed. He wished to be homeless like his master. He saluted no man by the way, unless specially moved to do so. He seldom opened his lips except to acknowledge or distribute to others the alms which he had received. As he made his way along the roads, absorbed in meditation, or spent whole days of prayer in churches, he was so entirely lost to his surroundings that once, in his later years, when he was kneeling before a crucifix, an artist was able to paint the portrait which has preserved his likeness for later generations. His clothing consisted of a ragged old cloak and of broken shoes, while his 2 or 3 books were carried with his few other possessions in an old sack slung over his back. Was it not written, "Be not solicitous for your body, what you shall put on"? As for the body, Benedict Joseph carried his neglect of it to a degree which provided him with a form of mortification of the flesh more galling than any hair shirt, besides earning the contempt and avoidance which he actually desired. If charitable people failed to offer him food, he would pick up an orange peel, cabbage stalks, or moldy fruit from refuse heaps, or he would do without. If they gave him money, he usually passed it on. A donor of a trifling coin afterwards confessed to having belabored him with a stick for having, as he thought, shown his contempt at the smallness of the gift by handing it over to another. Benedict bore the beating without a word. For over 3 years the young man wandered about Western Europe, not aimlessly, but going from shrine to shrine in Italy, Switzerland, Germany, France, Spain, Assisi, and Compostela. Nor was an undeserved beating an isolated example of ill treatment. He was once arrested for assaulting an injured man whom he had in fact been helping. Another time he was suspected of theft and turned out of a local church. But he attracted the attention he wished to avoid by an apparently miraculous multiplication of bread for some of the poor and by the healing of a confirmed invalid. In the year 1774 his pilgrimages ceased, and he remained in Rome except for an annual journey to Loreto. His nights were now spent in the ruins of the Colosseum, his days in the various churches of the city. Many people who knew nothing about him testified after his death to the inspiration they had received from seeing him absorbed in contemplation before the Blessed Sacrament or a crucifix, thus earning for him the nickname the Saint of the 40 Hours because of his constant attendance at the devotion. He loved most of all the Church of Our Lady of the Mountains in Rome. He spent much time in this his favorite place of devotion, and on Wednesday of Holy Week in the year 1783, when he went to pray, he was taken suddenly ill and expired while those who attended him in his last moments were saying the invocation of the Litany of the Dying. Holy Mary, pray for him. His biography, written by his confessor Marconi, describes 136 miraculous cures attributed to him within 3 months of his death.